Apologies for our little late start, but we're trying to get a couple of people connected by phone. Bear with us.
Yes, but I'm talking even when I try to call Scott. Or if they do it, but I didn't want to do it, it doesn't
Everything worked fine today, right? And then no issues with the
Yes.
network unavailable.
You think it's under here again?
What's Virginia's extension?
102.
Okay, it's working.
Got it.
Just check and make sure you're working.
Virginia, have you on conference call. I'm going to go to Scott Robinson next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Please hold.
Yes, last week was on vacation. Nice to be off this week. Ship box. I'm at this all the time though.
Scott, are you there? Can you hear me?
If we're not done by
Scott?
10:15, I have to leave because I have to go to work.
I certainly hope we're done by 10.
Hello, Scott?
So I'm hoping so.
Scott, can you hear me? Hello, Scott? Hello, Scott, can you hear me? Hello, Scott, I have you on speakerphone. Can you hear me?
I can hear you live from Indiana tonight.
Thank you, Scott. Please hold. I'm going to conference call the mayor in next.
Okay.
Great.
Hello, this is Fred. Can you hear me?
Mayor Anderson, can you hear us?
I can.
Wonderful. I have all of you on conference call. Please hold. Virginia, can you hear me?
Yes.
Scott, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Mayor Anderson, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you all. I have Virginia and I have Scott Robinson and Mayor Anderson on conference call.
Welcome. I apologize for the delay, but we're ready to open our June public meeting of the Council of the Morrisville Borough. And I want to first report that at 6 p.m. tonight, we had an executive session to discuss certain matters related to the police collective bargaining negotiations. Next, I invite you all to stand and join with me in our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Now I'm going to ask Virginia, would you take a roll call?
Yes. Mayor Anderson? Catherine Engelhardt?
Present.
Ellen Laurel?
Here.
Andrew Lubin?
Here.
Lisa Maness?
Present.
Elisa Murray?
Here.
Bob Paul?
Here?
Scott Robinson?
Here.
Nancy Sherlock?
Here.
Our borough solicitor?
Scott Holbert on behalf of Flager and Associates.
Thank you, Scott. Our borough manager?
Present.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, Virginia. Our borough solicitor reminded me during the roll call that I also neglected to report that council also had an executive session last Wednesday to discuss certain police personnel matters. And with that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is a presentation on community choice aggregation by Dennis Rowan. Mr. Rowan.
These two are on, but this one is not on, John. Does anybody need this one on, this monitor?
Yeah.
Are you- Right, council, well, there's one way over there. Okay.
Council could, if we can't get it going, council could turn around and look at this one if you like.
Good point.
You could look at this one too.
There we go. Thank you, council, for placing CCA and myself on the agenda. Welcome, everybody. I'm Dennis Rowan from Lansdowne Borough, a lifelong resident of Pennsylvania, and discovered CCA about a dozen years ago when Massachusetts was the first state to become a CCA state. And this is basically just an educational session. Been going around to boroughs in Pennsylvania and municipalities, letting them know background on CCA, the power and the benefits, potential benefits to boroughs. And thanks to the EAC and Debbie Colgan for reaching out. Thanks very much. So on our team, we have legal expertise, Baird Brown, community experts, Jim Wiley and Bill Sabey, and myself through the Sierra Club. Our community choice aggregation experts are Mike Gordon. His company is Jewel Community Power, and Steve Filler is their legal representative. And our solar representatives are Ron Celentano and Liz Robinson. Ron's the head of Pennsylvania Solar, and Liz, Philadelphia Solar Association. So community choice aggregation allows local governments to select the default electric supply for residents, businesses, and municipal accounts from the alternative supplier, while still receiving services from the existing utility. CCAs enable local control over electricity sources with less pollution than is offered by the default utility, in this case PECO, and or lower electricity prices. By aggregating demand, communities can negotiate better rates with competitive suppliers, Pennsylvania suppliers, and choose healthier energy sources. So around the United States, as I mentioned, Massachusetts was the first. The states you see there in greenish are existing CCA states. Our neighbors to the north, recently New Hampshire, just last year enacted CCA. Maryland is enacting it this year. The ones in blue are pursuing it. And Pennsylvania, we do not have CCA in Pennsylvania yet. We discovered the borough pathway, which I'm going to be talking about in this presentation. So we're pretty early on this. We're reaching out. I'm the state organizer for CCA for PA, so we're going around the state. Since I'm in Southeast PA, we've started with this area, but we are going to State College next month and out to Allegheny County in August. So it is a statewide initiative. So if you have not gone to Pennsylvania Power Switch, you get what's called the standard mix. Are there anybody in the room who has gone to Pennsylvania Power Switch and switched your energy? Anybody? One? A few? Council? Great. So that's about average, like maybe a little above average. It's in the state, it's around 10%. It's not easy. You have to be computer savvy. You go to Pennsylvania Power Switch, there's a lot of options. There are some teaser rates on there, so consumer protection gets to be an issue. One of the things that CCA can do is add consumer protection by being the aggregator. Sometimes it's not even abusive. It's just there's an introductory rate. You miss that introductory rate ended, and all of a sudden you look at your bill and I'm paying 16 cents a kilowatt hour. I thought I was paying 8. If you look at your utility bills, you know that recently there's been about a 30% rise in prices. One of the things that CCAs have done is stabilize the prices. So as you see in our mix, Pennsylvania, the blue is we've added a lot of natural gas. Our coal percentage has gone down. But on the renewables, and Pennsylvania has a really good wind corridor, and we have, believe it or not, a very good sun yield in Pennsylvania. But there's only that little sliver there. So, I think about this, a mix is a good thing. It's competition, right? One thing I learned about Pennsylvania, we are the second largest exporter of electricity in the country. So we have abundant electricity. And adding to this mix, what I look at is, in terms of Morrisville, what I would say to look at is what can we add locally? And I know, coming around here and talking to people, there are some good sites locally where you can have a local mix. What would that add? Well, when a storm comes in, we have more and more outages. You can keep your local people safe, right? When you have a heat wave, you can keep cooling centers over. When you have a cold spell like we had this past December, right, you can keep heating centers up. So it gets into resiliency. And one of the things I like about CCA, currently there's a lot of money for community resiliency. So the CCA also does what I'm doing right now, a lot of education and outreach on energy efficiency, right? Insulation, things that you can do to save the residents of Morrisville money. So if you don't go to Pennsylvania Power Switch, you get the standard mix. Our standard mix has gotten cleaner, but it still produces about 1 pound of pollution per kilowatt hour. That means the average house, which does 12 megawatt hours a year, you're doing 12,000 pounds of pollution. That's 6 tons from the average resident. That's the Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. So there's a lot of things localities can do through CCA to not go with the standard mix. And what I see this as a lot of people, it's energy democracy. Another word for CCA is local choice, right? It's in the borough's hands. If Morrisville, eventually goes with the CCA, it will be determined by your values, right? If you value the environment, I know the EAC has been doing a lot of local things. The borough has lots of initiatives on cleaning up the environment. I see CCA as one more potential aspect to clean up the environment. So based on that energy mix, sorry, this is kind of tiny. I'll go to the next slide. But the residential, based on that 6 tons per household. There's 37,222 tons of pollution that come from the residential energy. This is from Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission. There's a new study coming out, it's supposed to be coming out, I think, 2024. But these numbers are generally close. That's the residential. I won't go through all the other sectors, but CCA, by selecting a cleaner mix, can really, at the local level, and I really believe in bottom-up democracy and bottom-up initiatives. That's what I see the power of CCA to really make a difference in the local environment and in the larger. So Morrisville can choose healthier energy. Again, it would be your choice. You know, you would have a committee. You would decide what you want to go out into the market to issue RFPs to suppliers, Pennsylvania suppliers, which also means Pennsylvania jobs. And you could say, hey, let's put this in Morrisville. Let's create local jobs. Again, it would be Morrisville's choice how the CCA is shaped. So this is building on that other slide. So over 10 years, a Morrisville CCA could prevent at least 330, let's round it up to 335,000 tons of greenhouse gas emissions and pollution. So it's very, very powerful local action, and aggregated local communities around Pennsylvania all taking this action can really improve the climate of Pennsylvania. So because of this, when I started looking into CCA for PA, I found that it's actually in the state plan, the 2019 plan. Westchester Council of Governments has CCA in their plan. And also City of Philadelphia has CCA in their plan. So in our effort, as I said, which is, we've been going about 2 years, mainly looking at legal foundation, building the team. Just in the past 6 months, our first boroughs, Narberth and Swarthmore, signed a memorandum of understanding with us to explore CCA, how it would be implemented. In that effort, we just had our 3rd meeting with PICO, the utility, working out things like data transfer. Once we get through with PICO, we're now up to the Exelon level. We will go back to the Pennsylvania PUC to work out how it will be implemented along existing retail choice laws in the state. So as I mentioned on the outset, there is an existing borough pathway for boroughs. I'll read this because it is important, just the yellow. A borough may manufacture or purchase electricity for use of its inhabitants, its residents. A borough may cooperate with private power companies, other boroughs, electric cooperative corporations, and other public or private power entities within or without the Pennsylvania Commonwealth in the development of electric power and energy. No person, partnership, or corporation may introduce electric current for light, heat, or power purpose without the consent of the council. So this is very powerful. It basically means, you know, and this goes back 120 years, maybe even further. The solicitor may know in borough statute. The borough has the right to keep out things that they think are harming the borough and to select the energy that they want, not just energy, a lot of things. And this is in more recently, so in Act 138 authorization, a borough may prohibit electric generation supplies from serving end-use customers within its borough limits. So that kind of reiterates what I just said. So the borough has a lot of power in determining that energy mix. So the flow of electricity stays the same as it does now, but there's just more choice. There's the brokers. There's the generators. It may be wind. It may be natural gas. It would be composed of whatever the borough chose to be in the CCA supply. The distribution grid stays the same. PICO keeps delivering the energy. It comes to the municipality or borough, and the benefits go to the customers. So this is a diagram of what I just said. Down below, the borough residents, you can still go to the utility supply, which is the default. CCA adds one more choice. It's not limiting choice, right? You can still go to Pennsylvania Power Switch. You can still have home solar. So in terms of free market, you're adding choice, which is more energy democracy, more community power. The legal implementation, the customers, the agent who would be the supplier who the borough contracted with, and PICO follow Pennsylvania retail choice laws. Everything is congruent with the existing laws. The CCA will direct the actions of the agent supplier for the borough and the residents. What that means to the borough is, a lot of people ask, is this going to be a lot of burden on the borough? After the initial start of the CCA, the administrator, who I'll get into in a second, does the work with the supplier. So for your solicitor, there's a tri-party contract. There's the borough, there's the chosen supplier. So say you find somebody who has a great price on Pennsylvania Solar. You could also say, hey, we have a sewage plant here with a brownfield. Could you possibly locate 10 megawatts of solar there and give us a nice fixed price at a discount for the next 20 years? And the developer right now could go to the infrastructure law and make that happen. So that would be downstream a little bit, but CCAs around the country are doing that. So again, it would be the borough's choice, right? But that tri-party contract would be the borough, that supplier, and the administrator. In terms of a cost to the borough, there's no cost. The supplier pays the CCA administrator. It's around 2 mils, and that end price is factored into the price that the residents would pay for the electricity. And that's probably more detail than you need, but the net is it's revenue neutral to the borough, but it can add financial benefits, as I said, in terms of local jobs and things like that. So this is called opt-out community choice aggregation, which means everybody who hasn't selected an alternative supplier is opted in to the CCA. If you say, no, I want to stay with the default supplier, you are notified through the CCA that this is happening. You say, nope, I'm going to stay with PICO, or I'm going to stay with whomever. Again, it's adding choice. These are potential goals. The goals would be Morrisville's. I just have highlighted here some of the other boroughs that we presented to. Can we do this? And again, it would be Morrisville's design if you chose to explore CCA. You could choose Pennsylvania renewable energy. It could be local renewable energy to supply and protect Morrisville residents from increased pollution. In the case of Morrisville, as I said, that residential would reduce 33,500 tons of greenhouse gases a year. You would obtain aggregated fixed renewable energy prices for the residents. It would add local system resilience. So again, anything that was built in the community would help the community during an outage. And increase consumer protection, which I already mentioned. So the administrator that I reached out to, New York State is one of those states that is a CCA. I was working up in New York when Jewel Community Power brought CCA to New York. Their first CCA in New York was in 2015. Jewel Community Power was the administrator. It started with 20 towns in New York. New York now has about 158 towns that are CCA towns. And in that first I'll go to the next slide. Jewel currently is helping 52 municipalities in New York, 410,000 households, about 1.3 million people in New York for CCA. So in that first 20 municipality CCA, they saved $17 million for the participating communities over that 30-month contract. The orange line, they locked in a fixed price. A lot of people say, is it always going to be more? You can see this is compared to the utility, which was Con Edison. Sometimes Con Edison was less. Most of the time it was more. So over that 30-month contract, again, those participating communities saved $17 million. And that would be, the contract would be chosen by the borough. You would choose, do we want a fixed rate? Do we want solar? What is the makeup? Again, it's Morrisville's CCA, and it would be Morrisville's choice. So CCA in New York has grown now. As I mentioned, it's up to 158 municipalities, over 3.2 million people who have adopted CCA, 1.2 million low to moderate income residents. They've supplied over 3 million megawatt hours of renewable energy. and avoided over 770,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. And as I mentioned before, over 200,000 hours of public education. Right now, that is huge because I know everybody's aware of the bipartisan infrastructure law and the Inflation Reduction Act. There's 4,000 grants in there. I just submitted one on Tuesday, a week ago, for 7 cities, Bethlehem, Allentown, Scranton. That's just one. Delaware Valley Regional Planning Commission, I was talking to Debbie about it. They are looking to spend this money. They're looking for bottom-up people, boroughs, municipalities, to take this money. So it's revenue positive. You know, a lot of this is without a match. The CCA does a lot of outreach through the website and events. These are revenue. These are tax credits. Here, grants that are available. A lot of what I'm doing right now, education and outreach. So the net impact of opt-out CCA in New York, as I said, you know, here we had about 10% of the people have chosen renewable. That's kind of true in other states. With the CCA, that goes up to 80 to 90% participation in the CCA to take advantage of the CCA, the consumer protection, those fixed rates, and the local renewable energy. So that's about all I have. The process, CCA, this is a kind of a big deal. I know boroughs, municipalities have a lot on your plate. Again, thank you for listening and your time. Right now, the ask is just, hey, if you want to learn more, we are here. We will be having a webinar. The leading boroughs right now who are Swarthmore and Narberth. I know solicitors like to talk amongst each other. Borough to borough likes to talk. At the next webinar, they will be indicating why they're doing what they're doing, and they can talk solicitor to solicitor, say, what about this? And then I won't go through all the steps, but it is, you know, it's about an 8-month process. There's no commitment from the borough until you actually sign a supply, you know, and that whole process, it's revenue. There is time like this. There are people who would lead this, right? Finally, there would be a request for proposals for suppliers. If you don't like any of the bids, you don't have a CCA. So the ask right now is to explore it. You know, like I said, all boroughs have a lot on your plate, but if you have people who want to spearhead it, like the EAC or anybody in council, we are available. I will be informing you when the webinar is, and I don't know if you have time now, if you have any questions, but that's pretty much it. Thank you. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ryan.
Thank you.
Before we go any further, the borough manager and the borough solicitor both reminded me that I need to ask for the council for a motion to authorize amending our agenda tonight to add item 8K as an action item, which is approval of Police Directive 204.
So moved.
Thank you. Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all. Sorry for that.
Virginia, did you get that?
Yes, I believe was Mrs. Sherlock the first and Mr. Lubin the second?
Correct.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we move on to the public comment phase of our meeting. I ask each of you to, when you come up, give your name and address, and you have 3 minutes. And we will start with our former mayor, David Ravella.
Good evening, everyone. Dave Ravella, 115 Grandview Avenue, historic Morrisville Borough. My wife Janet actually signed up tonight too, in case I go over, so she could yield some time to me, which is the first topic I'd like to speak of, which is public comment. The history of the borough meetings, members of the community had the ability to speak at the public portion of the meeting. It was 10 minutes to do so, and then it was switched from 10 to 3 minutes back when Mrs. Smith was our council president. It was a large change in the time, and a lot of people feel it was censorship. And I would ask the council to please consider revisiting the policy and allow the community more of an opportunity to speak at public comment. I understand nobody likes longer meetings. Okay. All right. Is it working, John? Okay. So, like I was saying, so I understand no one likes the longer meetings, but I believe our residents deserve to be and encouraged to become part of the meeting. And I feel if you make it back to 10 minutes, I think that would encourage people to come participate in our borough. Point number 2 I'd like to talk about is
Excuse me, Mr. Ravella. There's some people in the back that are asking if you could hold the mic closer to you so they could hear you.
let's hope that's better.
Thank you very much.
Well, for those who missed it, I was just asking that public comment go back to 10 minutes. All right, so point number 2 is about the earned income tax, which has been in effect for about a year now. And I understand what it is, and I understand Act 511 and how it can help, and it certainly can ease some strains associated with an additional tax. But again, there's residents who don't agree with it. They don't believe it's in their best interest, certainly. And they don't think it's the right thing to do. I personally, I'm not sure if it's the right thing, but I can tell you, I think it's just a Band-Aid, and it might not be the right thing moving forward. So, and topic number 3 is unfortunately not a pleasant one, but in having been the mayor for 8 years, and decision-making was often difficult, but it was never to be questioned or had to question what I was going to do, because it was simply you do the right thing, and that's what always came natural. And that was so. My family has lived here for over 3 decades, and I don't believe we've ever had a mayor under investigation by the district attorney before, let alone numerous charges. To me, it's nothing short of a black eye for our community. And regarding the charges related to the mayor, I have been stopped by numerous residents, business owners. People have stopped by the house, at the car show, the parade. People want to talk about it, and they think I want to talk about it, so they seem to seek me out. So when first approached about this alleged hit and run at the time, they were questioning why there was no apology. They were actually embarrassed about that. And we read in the newspaper that the council, you guys up there, hadn't been told in a timely manner. And I will say transparency is not just a word that should be used at election time. The mayor in a borough is the chief law enforcement officer. How can the chief law enforcement officer be under investigation, now charged, and still oversee the police department? I believe there's been a lack of confidence by the residents here regarding that. And there was a crime committed. It's not a victimless crime. It's not just the owner of that car that got hit. Everybody that's part of our community, to me, is a victim. So, having said that, I will say that elected officials, we are all, well, you are, to be held to a higher standard, especially the ceremonial head of local government and those who oversee the Morrisville Police Department. Residents seem to be outraged again when there was an appearance by the mayor at the recent car show and the parade, walking around as if nothing happened. Now we learn that there's video footage and several charges against our mayor. We want to know when we're going to get an apology. Will he step down? And let's be clear. Fleeing the scene is illegal. It's always going to be overshadowed with speculation, as the mayor was not available to be observed by a police officer, to take a field sobriety test, blood alcohol test. Because of these things and many others, I'm asking the council to add a motion tonight of the motion of no confidence. We, the residents, would like to know who is aligning themselves with the mayor and who's not going to tolerate this stuff. We all would like to know before November's election. So I'm asking you all on the dais to do the right thing. Let's embrace the black eye to the community, and let's address it. Let's get it rectified. And I believe it's past time. And I thank you for your attention. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Ravello. Janet Ravello, do you have anything to add? Okay, thank you. I'm sorry, I have a little trouble with the handwriting here. Jim Zalewski? And please correct my pronunciation.
No, that's close enough.
No, what is it?
Zaleski,
Zaleski.
48 East Cleveland Avenue. And I came today about, what's the last one listed here? I'm glad to see it, AJ. About the pickleball court.
Yes.
I think it was misrepresented to the board. I think the board voted with their hearts, not more their head, but not so much with their heads. It was presented, and I think they should put it at Williamson Park. Everybody I spoke with was absolutely above board. I want to thank everybody that I spoke with and called me back, and came to the street I live on and even my home. That I thank you for your honesty and everything. Everybody's great. I mean, just terrific there. So anyway, about the pickleball court, I think it's going to be too noisy where we're at. I think it belongs at the island. We don't want to stop this young man from getting his Eagle badge. I had called I believe his scoutmaster, and he never called me back. I said, well, you can put like this shuffleboard, if that would be enough for him to get his Eagle badge, then let's do that. You know, the seniors can even play that, really, I guess. And you know, that's it. I mean, with the noise, I know them are Ryder, or at least I thought. One day I went up there, they took the basketball courts out, the rims, and I said, well, no, what was with that? They said it was driving the neighbors crazy with all the balls bouncing and stuff, so it can be an annoyance. So it would be good to keep that stuff at the island, which we still have. And then going here, I think we should improve the awareness, turn the town teal. I think that with the alcohol, if somebody wants to have a drink at an event, is a fine. They're going to behave themselves. For the borough repaving, trust is 100%. Thank you to the manager, whatever you decide on that. The Fuji Sail bicycle, it's great to have a professional policing, professional community policing. You don't see the police on bicycles too much. So that's good. He gets back in the neighborhoods and stuff like that, because quality of life is an important issue. If we don't have that, we don't have nothing. You know, right? That's important. And get a call from for the Borough Council Commission here. 8F. I'm afraid I'm going to run out of my minutes here, so I'm a little nervous.
15 seconds.
Oh, boy.
No pressure.
I'm under pressure, but okay, yeah.
I think you covered most of it.
We need as many police as we can, because I think with the chief we have, like I say, professional community policing. You know, if somebody's doing something wrong, or even we now have with the judge and all, she's all about quality of life. You know, if you go up in front of her for littering or this or that, she's
Get it wrapped up.
okay. And then, so I just want to thank everybody for it, and please put it at the island, and trust everything you do. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Gary Wallace.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Gary Wallace, located at 719 Crown Street. Myself and my fellow neighbors would like to bring up some concern of the property at 705 Crown Street being utilized currently as a rehab facility. It is zoned as an R1. It should not be used as a rehab facility. I have went over and spoken to some employees that are there, and that's exactly what they're using it as. It is being used improperly. There is patients inside of there. It is a for-profit business. It is not nonprofit. And we would like this addressed because we are not happy about it, and it shouldn't be inside a residential area. So, thank you.
Thank you. I'll ask the borough manager to comment on that when she gives her report later.
Are all of you behind that?
Thomas Dingwell.
Thank you. I'm Reverend Tom Dingwall at 146 Harrison Avenue, First Ward. I've been a resident for quite a while. I've enjoyed this body of leadership here, and you guys have done a great job. But in my community, I've been walking around for all these years, walking through the streets, meeting with different neighbors and people, finding there's a lot of needs. There's also a lack of unity. So what I'd like to propose is an opportunity to have a block party on Harrison Avenue from Coleman down to Baker. And I already have permission from Gary Taylor. He was not able to be here to sign my petition, which I have a petition with 90+ names on it of the residents, all agreeing to have this little gathering so we can get to know each other, get to grow with each other, maybe solve some of the needs that are out there. So that is my request, and I don't know how to go beyond all just asking you. I do have a whole bunch of names on several sheets of paper. So what I should do with that, you need to tell me.
I'll sign that.
Okay, very good.
I'm on Robertson Avenue.
Okay.
Can we include that too?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, because we're doing a whole community all the way up to the cemetery back, but I only took Harrison because if I shut down that area, I have it safe for games for kids who can have some crazy little games and some food and some water and other things, and no alcohol and everything else. I will make sure that it all stays clean. So,
Mr. Dingwell, the borough manager reminds me that or suggests that you should come by the borough office to fill out the application forms requesting permission, explain all that.
Very good.
Yes, someone had called regarding this, and we had given them instructions, so I'm not sure if it was yourself or someone else. Okay. Okay.
He's next.
Certainly. So this is something that we would have, for timing understanding, this is something that we would have to have an application at Borough Hall, have you fill that out first. And then that application does have to go on to a council agenda for council approval. And the reason being is it would be a road closure. So it's not something that I could approve. So just so you understand that it would be of the essence.
Can I ask a question? What date did you have in mind?
August 19th.
So there's time for us to be able to approve it next month.
I'd say start the paperwork right away.
Yeah, I'll be here.
That sounds great.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
You can bring that up. I'll sign it.
It's a little intrusive. James Schwartz.
James Schwartz, 580 Rosemar Drive, getting ready to celebrate our 60th anniversary at our residence, September 3rd. Yeah, pretty cool, huh? We've paid a lot of taxes here, and we've seen a lot of changes. Part of the reason I'm here is, of course, I'm supporting Reverend. What a wonderful man he is and an asset to this community. He goes out to the camps where the drug addicts are and ministers to them all around this area. He's 75 years old, and he's an amazing man. So my support, as you guys can give him, I would greatly appreciate it, and so would some of his neighbors. Ms. Howell, who didn't know the process, she has an issue with our neighbor built the fence 2 foot onto her property. So hopefully you guys can maybe help her get some idea how to go about fixing that problem. Dave, good seeing you, my friend. I don't know about 10 minutes, because sometimes there's people I wish they'd have like 1 minute. But maybe 4 or 5 minutes would be better than 3 minutes. So I do support an increase, brother. I guess I want to ask, how we doing on the budget? How's everything going there?
This isn't a conversation.
I'm just throwing this out. That's all I'm doing there, Mr. President. Also, I want to say that I do support the police. I like that idea about bicycle police coming through the neighborhood. We still have issues with undesirables. Had a guy My neighbors told me at 1 o'clock in the morning with a flashlight going up and down Rosemore a week and a half ago, maybe 2 weeks ago now. I was hoping Chief was going to be here. I wanted to bring that up to him. What else did I want to say? I think that's about it. Yeah, okay. Thanks a lot, guys. Good seeing you.
Thank you. As for the residents having problems with the fence, you should report that to the code officer.
Correct. Yes, we have a public portal on our borough website, and you can put your information in there. You can add photos and so forth, and any information that you can provide. Thank you.
Sue Dingwall.
Hi, I'm Sue Dingwall. I live at 146 Harrison Avenue with my husband Tom, and we are planning on having it may not be a block party, but it will be a party to know the community and play games with the kids. It would just be a much safer way if we could block the road. So I appreciate your concern and certainly look forward to having this event go on. So thank you.
Thank you. Debbie Colgan.
Hi, good evening. Debbie Colgan, 120 West Hendrickson Avenue. Now that you've learned a little bit more about community choice aggregation, the Morrisville Environmental Advisory Council encourages council to approve the resolution that will be on the agenda next month. It's time to address climate change now, right here at home. Approving the CCA resolution does not commit the borough to a CCA. It allows Morrisville consumers to drive the effort for affordable clean energy, stable prices, and consumer protections. Negotiating an energy package is required anyway, so let's explore how we can do it well and reduce our carbon footprint. While there's maybe a few climate change deniers out there, most Morrisville residents are astute and recognize the reality before us. Using electricity that is sourced from renewables is good for the environment. It keeps the air we breathe cleaner and reduces the need for damaging fossil fuel infrastructure. Any kind of energy extraction, production, use has negative impacts. So let's take the path that minimizes the damage as much as possible. Joining the CCA expands our choices. It is not a mandate, and anyone can opt out without penalty and use whatever electricity supplier they want. It provides no cost assistance with determining our needs and negotiating a responsible electricity package. Recognize that it is not just an energy manager that gets a good deal for the borough. It allows much more. It provides community outreach and education, consumer protections, sources grants for a variety of projects, and works with utilities to build resiliency and reduce costs. The goal is to enable Morrisville and other municipalities to make clean energy availability a reality in our own hometowns. The EAC is willing to work with the help of our community. Again, there are no risks involved now, so why not take advantage of the opportunity to explore better options for the borough? I'd like to also add personal comment regarding the alcohol resolution. I've watched the development of the ordinance over many months. Public input was repeatedly sought and given. Other local ordinances were explored, legal issues were examined, and advice and assessments from other neighboring localities were taken into consideration. And what resulted was a conservative, well thought out, safe, and common sense plan that offers a popular feature to our events. It's an easy yes vote for all of you. So let's move Morrisville forward and stop staying stuck in the 20th century. Let's be creative in how we approach planning and action. And if you want to make Morrisville an attractive and desirable community, let's go green and reap the many rewards it offers. Thank you.
Kathy Panzita.
I'm short. Kathy Panzita, Hillcrest Avenue. Two things I wanted to talk about. I'm sorry I couldn't be here in person at your last meeting, but I did have the ability to watch it and listen to it while you were down here. And there was a back and a forth at your last meeting, and it talked about government and funding, and it was a back and forth. It is between 50 and 54 minutes into your tape. It's Mr. Robert, Scott, and the chief going back and forth about funding, about Harrisburg, about legislation. And it really got to me because I really wish I was in the room. You also talked about sending people to your boroughs association. And I'm not throwing, Scott under the bus, but his thing is, hey, this is above my pay grade. No, it's not. It is your pay grade. Your pay grade is the lowest level legislation. And to take that actively and change, it is up to you to change the law. And everybody says, I got my little pet peeve with my hotel taxes. You're darn right I do. And I want to personally thank Catherine, for when she went out to the borough meeting. I said, I want you to talk up and find out how Morrisville ends up getting that tax on those hotels, because I don't want to hear it's not in the borough code. And so for all those connections and whatever we can do to get that legislation forward, I appreciate you going out. Just like this other gentleman came in on his clean energy. I don't understand all that. I'll look into it. And the last thing that I came for is the alcohol in the park. I can tell you right now, I don't need to have alcohol in the park. Personally, I'm going to have a good time wherever I go. Probably what they serve is not what I drink, which is coconut rum. That's fine. But look at every one of your businesses. Look at the things that you're proud of. Look at the people that are coming in. Notice their distilleries. Notice their beer. Notice they're somehow dealing around alcohol. I don't want to name businesses, and also look at your existence. You can handle if it's handled correctly. I think it was well written on the one section. And if your police chief and the other people aren't complaining about it, it probably is worth a try. You can always rescind it and change it. Like I said, either way, I'm going to still have a good time wherever I go, but you look at it. It even started when Sesame Place had to start having alcohol, or your places, even with your children. So, thank you.
Okay, any other public comments? Anyone didn't sign up? Any last minute urges? Okay, thank you. We'll move on then to approval of minutes. I get a motion to approve minutes from our regular meeting of May 23rd, 2023.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Minutes are approved. Thank you. Moving on to, excuse me? It's my own feedback. Moving on to finance, call for a motion to approve the bill list.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
I'd just like to mention that the total is $247,221.40 for the month.
Okay. Does anyone have the lucky number? No. Moving on, on to our reports. The mayor's report. Mr. Mayor. I can, yes.
First of all, I just want to congratulate and wish well to one of our full-time officers who will be departing us next month. Great guy, and we will miss him. So I just want to thank him and wish him well. I don't want to throw his name out there for my privacy reasons, but I do want to make sure that he's I'm going to want to should be a little more detailed than me, but we were talking about men for the whole time I've been in office here, and I want to be very clear with the council and the managers and people. When you see that things keep happening, and people get hurt, we've had people leave, we had personal tragedies, and so we've been able to fill the holes. We just haven't been able to get back to that level that Bella had years ago, Mr. Bella. And so, you know, I just want people to be aware of that, and you know, there comes to people for the support. Like I said, we've all been very helpful and supportive, and just, you know, things happen and you can't always help them. So anyway, I'll let you put a little more into the details of that, but, you know, hopefully we can get those numbers up again. That's important for everybody. So I do want to address something real quick, and this is personal. I wouldn't rather do this in private, but I do think it's important that I apologize to our town. But, you know, Mr. Ramos not wrong when he says a black guy, and I do apologize. You know, I do apologize to my family and everybody who this is affected by. And I look forward to personally apologizing to the woman involved. I also look forward to speaking about it in a lot more detail, which I'm not going to do until this process is over. So I'd ask that you just respect it until the process is over, and then, you know, we'll talk about it more. But that's why I'm quiet about it, to answer a comment. I think everybody is welcome to an opinion, whether it's complimentary or criticism. In closing, I think it's silly to be slandered by someone who will even show up and do this job. So thank you for your time, everybody.
Thank you. Police Chief's report. Chief McClay.
I know it's a little loud.
Matches your eyes.
As everybody knows, I'm just coming from Gotham, and this was a Father's Day present, so I had to wear it.
From Gotham?
I think it looks nice.
From where?
Huh?
I didn't hear you. From
I said I just came from Gotham.
Oh, golfing.
So
I thought you said golf.
and this was a Father's Day present. Okay, I want to address a few things that was on Facebook this week, so people understand what we're doing. There was questions about destroying police records. There is a law called the Pennsylvania Record Retention Act, which we abide by to the T. We can get rid of records, and if you don't get rid of records, you'll end up having more records downstairs than you know what to do with. So we abide by that. There's a couple of people on Facebook that said they thought that was kind of strange that we're getting rid of certain police records. Let's see, part-time truck enforcement officer has completed 2 weeks of school, has another week left, but as everybody knows, we just had another officer resign, will be resigning in 2 weeks, which leaves the truck enforcement very hard to fill. The part-time officer will continue doing that. There's no way around it unless someone can come up with a good suggestion of how I'm going to do that with 7 officers on the street. We need more cops. We need to be up to 12. So it's going to be hard. Officer House is working as much as he can, but we have to fill the street. That's the first thing we got to do. National Night Out. A couple people wanted to know, how come we don't do it the same night as the rest of the world does? Last year when we tried to get equipment, it was very, very, very difficult because everybody else is renting the same stuff we are. So that's why we moved it up a week. That's all we did. So it was just sensible, and it made it easier to get the equipment. We almost didn't have it last year. We got lucky. So that's why that is moved up to another week.
Could you reiterate what date you moved it to?
It's the July 25th. The next, I think at this point, the consortium list has been wiped out. I'll be very surprised if we're going to be able to hire any full-time officers off of that. The next test that comes up is in October, which I will be asking the council to look at that like in August, to ask the Civil Service Commission to plan ahead that we can have that list certified the day it comes out so we can hire off that list. This past list only had 25 real applicants on it. So that'll be something you can try to work out with our civil service people how to do that. We got to be ready to roll right away.
When again is that consortium? October?
October sometime. When we get closer, I'll get a better date for you. The homicide that was on Norris Street, I will be able to comment on that at the next council meeting. I talked about the resignation of Justin.
Excuse me, Chief, could you verify that again? What street? On what street did you say?
Lenora.
Oh, Lenora, okay.
Yes, the one back in January.
Yes, well, thank you.
Next month, I'll be able to comment extensively on it. But right now, I still can't. That's about it. As usual, we're short officers. I need help. We got to do what we can to get more officers on the street. I don't know how we're going to do it if we don't have a consortium list to work off of.
Chief, you asked me to look into this resolution, and I did to try to change the rules on the consortium. There's actually several boroughs that are doing that, so we've gotten a copy of their resolution, and so that's one of the next things I'll be working on, to change those rules and send it to our state senator. So
Are they still working off a civil service list?
yes, there was something where it had passed House but not Senate. Yes, that just required it to have at least 10 people on the list. But I don't think that's going to help you at all.
No.
So
Well, what's going on right now is that the townships are basically picking our officers off one at a time.
And this was discussed
Every borough.
across the state.
Across the
yes,
state.
they were all complaining about it. And so I promise you that I'll get that resolution in and let you see it. And
Okay.
And
It's really getting hard. They don't have the same rules as we do. And they're picking and choosing officers and paying them at a rate we can't afford. And at a rate that is, $100,000. So this is what I talked about last meeting about, the civil service situation in the state, that this is something that has to be changed. I know it's been in existence for a long, long time, but the government has to look at this. We're talking to a lot of people. We're trying to change things. We're trying to come up with some ideas of how to create a better list, attracting qualified candidates. But the idea box right now is kind of empty, and we're looking for as much help as we can get. And we just don't know where to turn to at this point. But this is a nationwide problem right now. It's a generational problem. So,
Mr. Paul? Just also, last year, they actually repealed most, if not all, of the civil service regs. But again, it didn't pass both houses. But I have a question. We have Mrs. Bauer in the audience, who is, of course, our civil service chairperson. I'm just wondering if she has any comment. I'm sure that you're working together, or just curious. No. No, I don't want you to, if you don't want to. I'm just saying, I'm sure that you'll be in the works after we get that list, you're ready to go, I guess is what I'm going to say. Okay. Thank you.
yeah, I sent out, and I think I may have stepped over my boundaries, I'm not sure, but I sent out 25 invitations and applications to the 25 people that have MPO numbers on the list. Just ask them, please apply. And I didn't get one back. So that's why I say I think the consortium list is going to be dead already. That was probably the worst consortium list we've ever seen.
How long ago did you send that letter?
2 weeks.
I mean, it's my understanding that you did overstep your bounds in doing that. Does that have an impact in our future hiring of any of the applicants?
No.
Okay, well.
So no, I didn't step over my boundaries. I'm trying to be a little more aggressive to get whatever's left out there to fill in an application. You can always do a secondary application, but it lets people know we're hiring.
So how would that work if we're going to go through, so let's say somebody applies from the 25 that you sent the letter to, and they're decent, and then we have the consortium in October, or, well, Barb, maybe you have the answer to this, or Scott, do we have the ability to combine the two lists in order to do something?
No, anyone that applies for any of these letters or applications sent out, because the council has to correct us. Those individuals, if anyone did apply, they can reapply after we do the official public notice.
But they would have to take the October consortium again? No?
They're still anyone on the list, which we don't know, because the officers weren't hired, because the people not to the consortium that they were hired, but they do not do it. So there's no way to get an updated list or know who's been hired and who's not. So if anyone did apply, they would have to reapply after the public notice is put out.
Okay.
We still can consider those people, but if they applied before that, we can't use their applications.
Okay. But if you've got somebody, you could tell them to reapply, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you.
Managers.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I
He's done.
apologize.
Too late. Manager report.
Good evening, everyone. We talk about this every month. It's the Bridge Street project that is in a rendering over on the side of the room there. I'm happy to say that the new funding agreement was finally executed and construction began today. So if anybody is driving by, you will see that some of the areas, you'll see some orange cones and so forth. Sometimes there will be a delay in the bridge area with traveling at some point, but the end result will be phenomenal, and we're anxious for a finality date, hopefully in November of this year. And we hope to have a ribbon cutting ceremony. So hopefully we can celebrate the positive things that are taking place in Morrisville Borough. The next positive item that has taken place, we've been working on this for some time. We had been trying to get donations for engineering for the Manor Park project. There's been several applications for grant funding for this park. We know that it's needed. It's been taking place for several years. Councilman Hall and myself had been able to get a donation of engineering for this project. So we're in the midst of making another application that we have to do, but it's really a resurrection of what had been taking place in the past. So we're continuing on that. So wonderful, wonderful news. Those are two great things that are going to be happening. We don't know if we'll get the grant, but we're very positive that we will. And if we don't, we'll continue to apply until we do. Excuse me. We discussed the foregoing of the master planning grant for Williamson Park so we could proceed with our engineering company and the Parks and Recreation Department. We would like to have an outreach program to the public as to what the people would like to see. This will enable us to get grant funding much quicker than going through the master planning grant. So this is positive also. So everybody gear up and get ready to come to some Parks and Recreation meetings with your ideas as to what you would like to see at Williamson Park. I know we've had some discussion this evening by one of the residents regarding pickleball being possibly down there. So again, everybody gear up for coming to some proposed meetings in the future for the Parks and Recreation Committee to come with your ideas. It's important for the public to have input regarding this. We look forward to that. I attended the Habitat for Humanity ribbon cutting ceremony at 30 Hillcrest Avenue. Was a dream come true for a family. Very nice to see that one of the properties that had been in disrepair had been demolished, and we move forward regarding a brand new home for a family. So it's very nice to see, again, more positivity for Morrisville Borough. We put our roof project out to bid. Council approved the bid, so very shortly you will see contractors and trucks and so forth coming here to replace the roof on the Borough building. We've had some garbage cans in the back for a long, long time collecting water, so we're very excited for that project. The other project that we just finished is the sewer line that goes from the Borough building out to the street. That was another success story that's been paid with ARPA funds. That's been a project that's been waiting for some time. The final inspection just took place, so we'll be closing that out shortly. The next project that we're also working on is the electrical system that is in this building. So the council had hired, they voted to hire an electrical architect, and we're working with them. John Lader is being very helpful with that, getting some of these projects off the ground. So council will hear from us shortly regarding what the outcome will be with the electrical system. We've also worked on some of the issues that are taking place with the Falls Warehouse. We're working with PennDOT and so forth, and we're still working with that. We've worked with Chief of Police regarding the solar speed sign for South Pennsylvania Avenue. That was purchased. The chief purchased it. Public Works installed it. So that speed sign is new and it's up. And that was paid for by donations from Waste Management, who was here a couple months ago. So we're very proud to announce that also. Again, more positive for the residents. Public Works Superintendent ordered a new dump truck with a salt spreader and plow that we're going to be paying for in full with grant funding that we applied for. So we're excited for that to come also. We've got, excuse me, we've been also working on policy and ordinance information regarding alcohol in the parks, and that's on the agenda for this evening. Again, I like to report on all positive items that are taking place for the Borough of Morrisville, because we do have a lot of positivity taking place. And I know we have a group in the front here who is concerned about 705 Crown Street. We did get some phone calls regarding 705 Crown Street. There was a right to know that was requested for some information, and I actually have that with me because I believe that it would be best for our solicitor to comment on that because he was involved in the zoning application process.
Yeah, so this was an application. It was actually a couple of years even before Ms. Danko started with the borough dealing with this property. Where it's gotten to now is what's been relayed to the borough and explained to the borough. This is a residential home for people, obesity with eating disorders. It is related to residential and treatment, where we get, how do I put this the easiest way? I don't want to say stuck, but where we get, our laws get superseded by federal law, specifically the Civil Rights Act and the Fair Housing Amendments that took place in the 1980s. Under the Civil Rights Act and those Fair Housing Amendments recognize disabilities under the ADA. These types of treatment facilities, these types of residential homes, we are required under those federal laws to allow them to set up in the residential zoning districts. I trust me, I understand your concerns. It is something that boroughs, municipalities, townships, cities across the country have dealt with. I can tell you that one of our other clients prior to us being there did not have a properly zoned, didn't have the zoning ordinance written properly for these types of facilities, and it led to litigation. So we've actually done an extensive job with a prior client rewriting this. The borough itself has done a good job even prior to us starting, but we understand your concerns, and this is one of those ones where we really did spend the time to get out of them what they were trying to do, because in addition to these ADA homes where you see real disabilities, you also get the far end of this is where we get our sober living facilities, our group homes where they're dealing with substance abuse issues, which can also be recognized as an ADA, as a disability under the ADA, and they're serious issues. However, some of those homeowners themselves don't take it as seriously. So that's where you sort of get that gray area. And when we first started with this project, with this property back in, I want to say it was in the fall of 2020 when they first submitted their zoning application. They were looking to go that route more. I don't know if I can't remember if the owner has changed or the operator has changed, but it has changed from what they were originally planning to put there as what's been relayed to us. So this is one of those ones where it's a federal law dictating, specifically under the Civil Rights Act, where we can be sued under federal law.
I'm sorry. Thank you, Attorney Holbrook. And I just wanted to just quickly say that, and I'll let you.
I'd like to hear a question.
Oh, no, you can quickly finish.
Okay. Oh, it's not on this?
No, it is on this, yes.
Well, let you
Oh, so page 3, the zoning permit, so we just noticed that it was a zoning permit for the R3 and R4 zone, but that property is still R1, so we had a question about that. And then the second question I have is in their application, and from attorney, they define themselves because there's 2 definitions of family. One of them, it does not meet the individuals, like these are patients being harmed. The second definition that I think that they're hoping to use, they claim to be a nonprofit, but the Banyan Group is a for-profit group. So those are just some of the questions that.
So the first question, the zoning districts doesn't make a difference. That's something that the zoning officers can double check, but from a standpoint of those issues, it's not going to make a difference. Second question, which definition they fall under? They could fall under the first one. They could fall under the second. It is heavily weighted in their favor, we'll say, with the way the courts have interpreted these things. So I understand what you're saying, and without getting too far into it, just because we represent the borough, I understand what you're saying, but we know that the definitions, these outcomes do not go in the favor of the municipalities. They err on the side of the operators and the Fair Housing Act amendments.
I have one question clarification on the comment. Is the only reason that the borough is stuck on this because of what you're saying about the federal law superseding zoning ordinance? Weren't for the ADA, the Civil Rights Act, there would be something that was done, you could take action, maybe not comply. Is that the only basis?
How do I put this without saying yes? I mean, the answer is yes. I mean, the way these things, the treatment facilities, the thing is, are you presenting and that you're living in a home? You don't need to be related as a family, but that unfortunately can include places where there's treatment. You can be living and receiving treatment as a family. So yes, those come down from the Fair Housing Amendments. I'm gonna be honest, like I said, it was from the 80s, so this predates, my time practicing law. Could something be different? Yes. Had those laws never been passed, could they be the same? They could also be the same, but generally, yeah, we would try to keep from a general overbroad municipal zoning perspective that facilities you would try to keep separate from a normal residential facility.
I apologize for interrupting the manager because she's actually going to read something that's going to resolve the whole thing for us.
Well, I don't know that it will resolve the whole thing, but some of the things I was going to read to you were some of your questions. So I'm thinking that maybe the best way to deal with this would be that do any of you have a copy? I know there was a right to know request that was done. So do you have a copy of the official zoning information regarding this property? Because it talks about the property is zoned R1, which permits single-family dwellings, noting the property. It's bordered by land zone C3. It also talks about how it does not have any clinically items taking place on the property. It's only a living facility, and that is why it's allowable. The clinical location is not there. That people get picked up and taken off of site, so that's why you're actually seeing activity now, because it is kind of odd, because this has been actually in place for a long while, and now there's been activity with the residents saying what's going on. Well, you're actually seeing the residents that live there being taken off site, and that's why you're seeing activity. The reason you're seeing that is because they are not allowed to have any treatment at the house. They have to go to a facility. So that's what makes this a non-treatment facility. It's a house, and that's really what happens here with this matter. So I just wanted to really touch upon that. And if you didn't have these documents, to try to explain to you that the information is in here, and it could be very helpful for you to just read, and hopefully if you have any questions, we can help answer them. No, because no treatment is taking place at the facility itself.
With 24-hour nurses on site as well.
But, and it indicates also, they state that there may be one person that is housed with them, but that is not, that's just for convenience. And I can read that to you if that's helpful. They employ one staff with the property, but although, you see here, the residents do not require special care or assistance. Staff is provided as a courtesy to the residents. So they're not required. They don't have to do that. It's just really a courtesy. And if we think about it, it's probably a good thing in a sense, because it's not required. So they're going above and beyond and actually providing that. So I think that's a positive aspect, if anything, so that they are, they do have that. But I would hope that this information could be helpful to you, if you.
No, it's helpful. I know there are facility at where they provide the treatment. I guess my issues were just the way that the ambulance attorneys have worded it, because they made it a little bit limited. As you said, they chose to put the wording in for the ADA to say that these residents are disabled, but just for our understanding, they are patients being temporarily housed there, which doesn't really fall into what our one zoned department. And I guess the other thing we are concerned about is and again, they then change their minds and started housing eating disorder patients, they would start housing. There's a lot of questions that our neighbors have.
Depending on the change, if someone wanted to make a change, they would have to make a new application to the Office through zoning. They couldn't just make that change. Well, it depends. If some of the things that are within in the zoning are allowable, it just depends on what they would want to do.
And should the near neighbors around this facility then be notified?
Only, well, this isn't a variance. This is a permit. It's required by federal law to be a permitted use. But if there was a situation where, like as I talked about previously, where there was the time they were thinking about the more of the halfway house model, which it's a little bit grayer whether it falls under the fair housing amendments, that is something where variances theoretically could be needed, and notification does happen in those cases.
But for just a regular zoning application, there is no notification requirements.
Issued to them because it's for R3, R4, and you said it doesn't matter that it's not R1. Like how does it not matter?
It's the use that would be allowed in R1, R2, R3, R4. It's the same use. It's allowable in all four of those uses.
So the zoning permit covers all of those.
The specific use would fall under all of those. So yes. Yep.
We really need to move on. Thanks. Come on, we've tried to answer most of your questions. Please read the materials that we've given you. If you want to pursue it further, I guess you can take it to the zoning hearing board. I don't know. Can they challenge any use?
Can I interrupt?
Please do.
Hey, people, I'm Andrew Lubin. I'm your councilman. I live at 624 Crown next to the hookah bar, so I feel your pain every freaking weekend. Come see me tomorrow if you have the time. My phone number is on the borough website. Let's continue this, but not tonight, okay?
Perfect. Thank you, Andrew. I'm sorry, Ms. Manager, you may continue.
Actually, I'm done with my report. Thank you very much.
Okay.
If there are any questions from council.
Thanks.
Paul, I do have a question.
Okay.
It's on her report, and it's about the paperwork for PennDOT, the Vulnerable Road User Project. And it mentions the two intersections, but are they just doing the intersections, not the actual roads? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Just the intersections. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Committee reports. Any committee reports?
I have a Parks and Recreation Committee meeting report. Is that okay?
Lay it on us.
I'll be brief.
As much time as you need.
Okay. Never mind. But anyway, some good news in the parks. I was glad to hear that we're moving forward on Manor Park. That's very exciting news. I hope we can get that grant. Because I don't just care about Williams Park, I care about all the parks that is in our community. We had a successful park painting the benches and cleaning up the tables, and we're going to complete that in the next week because we want it to look really nice as we have all these great summer events that are happening in our beautiful park. The last meeting, we went over some of the events and the planning, and things are really moving forward. There's a lot of response about our July 15th event. We've got food coming. We've got a really popular and well-known band, and it's really been publicized well. We did talk about the Irish Festival at the last meeting. Those plans are going excellent. It's going to be a fun, great musical, great food, fun event. So everybody will be Irish that day. So as Judith talked about, we're going to be having these public meetings and start getting some ideas from the public, what they want to see in Williamson Park. I'm really excited about that. I know there was some controversy on Facebook whether we should be turning down this grant, but after some conversations with some other boroughs and what Judith told me, I really think this was the right thing to do. And we still have the money that we have there that we can use, and I don't think we'll be able to concentrate on different projects that we can get grant funding. I've been researching and I've already found about 4 or 5 that I'm going to be working on. So I don't know if I'll get them, but I'm going to try. So as far as Park and Recreation, we have our next meeting next Tuesday, and it'll be here at 7 p.m. I encourage you all to come. We've got so much going on, and it's great to have all your support. So thank you.
Thank you, Catherine. Any other committee reports?
I don't have a committee report, but I have a question. So we had just sold not we, but the EDC had just sold the old water plant. And on there was a plaque in a memorial for someone who did volunteer work for the various parks. And that plaque was sold with the building. So I spoke with John Warenda, and he's going to get the plaque, and I think he's going to find a home for it. But he also started talking to me about other plaques throughout town that I didn't even know about. So do we have a list of where we have plaques? And if something happens, and should we start accumulating that list so that we're aware where these plaques are? Should something happen, we need to find a home for them.
I'm unaware of any list, but that would be a wise idea to start a list unless anyone on council is aware from the past that there's a list.
Should the Parks and Rec do it? Because there are, I know Petty Officer Costello's plaque is down at the park. I know that we actually have 2 here. There are trees with plaques down at Borough Hall.
That's something that was discussed, I think, one of our first meetings, that people brought that attention, about the different plaques. But nobody knows who has a list of all the different plaques. So maybe I can reach out to the community and some of those, sites that I can start asking people to identify them, and then we can move from there. I think that's a great idea. So thank you.
Thank you. So if any residents know of any plaques anywhere, please let the borough manager know.
I only know of one plaque. It's on the bridge since I've been here.
Yeah, well, there was one I saw, somebody posted a picture on Facebook as well. It was for Mr. Fusi, and I don't even know where that little plaque is. They said something about a pavilion, and I was like, I don't even know where that is.
No.
I think that's by the stage.
Well, thank you, Parks and Recreation, that you'll take care of that. Greatly appreciated. And thank you, Helen, for bringing that up.
Okay, moving on. Action items. Item 1.8A, call for a motion to approve recognizing September 2023 as Ovarian Cancer Awareness Month, along with support of hanging ribbons on trees around Morrisville Borough and the Turn the Towns Teal Awareness Campaign.
I so move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Aye.
Abstentions? Motion carries.
May I
I'm sorry?
make a comment, please?
Go ahead.
Thank you. I'm just reaching out to the public that if anyone wishes to assist with this endeavor, please, you can contact me, and we'll move forward with putting more bows around town. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, item 8B. Call for a motion to approve an ordinance of Morrisville Borough, Bucks County, Pennsylvania, authorizing events involving the consumption of alcoholic beverages in public parks.
So move.
I second it.
Discussion.
I have a question for the chief. So I'm actually torn on this. I think it is good to have alcohol at parks. Well, it's not good to have alcohol at parks, but it's a nice added bonus, I guess, and other towns do it. But my biggest concern is, if something were to go bad and go bad quickly, are we able to handle that as a town? Well, I mean, you see on the news all the time, there's a gathering and suddenly there's a gun and people are killed and shot. It happens every night. I'm watching the 6 ABC News. So that's my biggest concern.
Here's an example. The other night they had a shooting at the
Would you come up to the, sorry.
The other night they had a shooting at Cooper's, and Trenton called us for assistance.
Right. I heard the sirens.
So when things go bad, it doesn't matter, Philadelphia, whether there's alcohol involved or not alcohol involved. So I can't really give you an educated answer on that.
What is your feeling, yes or no, for alcohol in the park?
I haven't been asked.
I'm asking you now.
I don't know the circumstances.
Okay.
I have not seen anything, but I've seen very nice events go on at Washington's Crossing Park that they use as a huge fundraiser that I've been part of as a pourer, and those events have turned out very, very nice.
Do you think our events would be as nice as Washington Park, Washington Crossing?
All depends on how it's run.
I know, that's my concern. I know.
But the events, they have a wine event up there every year that is spectacular. They have 2 breweries, night days up there. They make a ton of money through the Washington Crossing Park, and there's never been an issue.
And Pennsbury Manor also has something, and it's also a nice event.
Yeah. So if it's
Yardley's alcohol friendly.
And there are many events that go very badly awry, too. So let's just keep that
Yes.
in mind.
I did have a chance to talk to Chambersburg, which is where I got the basis for the ordinance that we put together. And out of all of them, it was the strictest. And it involved, the police involvement. It had, there's a lot of things that we wanted to make it safe. We can't guarantee perfectly, but I'm not going to risk anybody. That's not who I am. And so we talked to Chambersburg, and we met with their borough manager and several of their council people. And they said that they had enacted that one several years ago. And they don't just limit, like we're doing, to just borough-sponsored events. It's whoever wants to put on an event. And they've never, ever had one incident. And they're larger than us. So it made me feel like we've done our due diligence as best we can. No, we can't prevent everything. But I'm sorry, I guess, I think we've tried to really put something together the best we can for the safety and enjoyment of this community.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, Ms. Sherlock.
Part of the process of this event will be a meeting with Code Public Works, the chief, Catherine, and the manager. And that's supposed to happen very soon. I don't know if there's a date been set yet, but we did discuss it at the last meeting.
Well, I just want to say that as I've said before at the last meeting of this council, that I was, as the chair of the Policy and Ordinances Committee, I worked extensively with other members of the committee and Scott Holbert here, our borough solicitor, to draft what we thought were the most prudent measures we could find and adapt to our purposes. If we were going to embark on this, we wanted to make sure that we could do it as safely as possible. Having done that, and as Catherine mentioned, the experience, the anecdotal history of Chambersburg and others has been good. But I just want to say that, we don't have, Morrisville has no history of this. I mean, we're starting this from scratch. This is a radical departure from what we've done up till now. Yes, we have lots of distilleries in town and we welcome them. We're happy for their business, as well as the restaurants and bars that are serving alcoholic beverages. But this is still a sea change, and I think that everybody should think long and hard before voting on this. And even though, I say if we're going to do it, this is the way to do it. I think this is the prudent way to do it. That doesn't mean that I still think that I think is a good idea. In fact, I don't think it's a good idea. But we'll take a plebiscite of the rest of council. But just understand there are no guarantees here. We've tried to build it as safely as possible. We know we're going to be relying upon our police and others to maintain order. But we can't guarantee what the results are. And so, I may be a Luddite for thinking like that, but I would rather go slow on this. But certainly we will defer to the will of the majority. So that's just the other side. Any other comments? Okay, let's vote. Let's do a roll call. Virginia?
I'm sorry, may I ask one moment? I just wanted to confirm who is the first on this.
Carletha.
Thank you very much.
Carletha, motion by Carletha, second by Catherine.
Yes, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
All right. Ms. Engelhardt?
Yes.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Mr. Maness?
Yes.
Mrs. Murray?
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear Mrs. Murray if she responded.
Yes.
Thank you. Ms. Alamo?
Yes.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherlock?
Yes.
And Mr. Paul?
No.
It's 7-1.
Mr. Paul, may I make a statement, please?
Okay.
Thanks. Just wanted to let the public know, thank you for those who, in the public, have offered support. But, and just to let the public know also that these events, they would have happened whether we have alcohol or not. Our mission is to try to have events down there that people will come to and enjoy. Again, this is just another piece that's offered as part of it. But we hope that everybody comes out to all the actually 5 events from now until October. Thank you.
Okay, item 8C, call for motion to award the borough's 2023 road paving program to James D. Morrissey, Inc. for $235,895.96, conditioned upon the completion of the 30-day RCO review period, which ends on June 11, 2023, to be paid out of liquid fuels.
So moved.
Second.
So moved with my microphone on.
Okay, any discussion?
And what roads are these for?
Hillcrest.
I know, I want the public to know.
Well, I was willing to tell them. I thought maybe you were
I was
involved.
waiting for the borough manager.
Go ahead, Nancy,
But
go ahead.
go ahead.
That's all right. Thank you anyway.
I apologize, Nancy, you may have that at your view closer than I do.
Okay. It's Hillcrest Avenue, but it starts at Stockham because we can't do from Pennsylvania to Stockham, which was the original plan, but due to some water issues, it starts at Stockham and will go all the way to Barnsley. And then we have from Hillcrest Avenue on North Lafayette all the way to Clymer. And then we have Keystone from Bridge Street all the way to Woodland.
Thank you.
And these, as was said, these had been determined and discussed actually 2 years ago at least.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8D, call for motion to approve advertising sale of a Fuji Code 1 police mountain bike 27-speed Shimano components with dual disc brakes, price $500.
So, aye.
All in favor?
I have a question, please.
What's your question?
You sound quite annoyed.
Excuse me,
I'm
what's your
sorry.
question, Ms. Sherlock?
The question is this the bike that the chief now uses and we're getting a new one? Thank you.
We have 2 bikes, correct? And you're getting rid of one? It's not being used?
Any other questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8E, call for motion to approve resolution to authorize the destruction of certain police department records.
So moved.
Discussion.
Yes. Just like to say thank you to the chief for going forward with this. It is something that's done on a regular basis and it's by state law.
Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8F, call for motion to direct the Morrisville Borough Civil Service Commission to advertise a full-time position with Morrisville Borough Police Department and prepare and certify the eligibility list for the position.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion. Well, I just want to say, as I understand it, this is specifically to replace the officer that is resigning, and it's not adding an additional officer to the department. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's correct. Yes.
Okay. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Fine, the motion carries. Item 8G, call for motion to potentially approve I'm not sure what potentially approve means. What does this mean, potentially approve?
It should just be approve.
Gives them an option to do it.
Okay, call for a motion to approve a temporary waiver of the 60-hour biweekly limit for part-time police officers, not to exceed 35 hours in 1 week through September 15, 2023.
So moved.
Discussion.
Should we just extend that through the end of November, since we're not going to be hiring till November, December, January?
I think that would be wise, Chief.
Or even through the end of the year?
I'd like to ask the solicitor whether does that hurt us? I mean, can we extend it indefinitely, like for 3 months, without violating whatever thing we're protecting against by having the limit in the first place?
You're still setting a deadline, so it's not indefinitely, so you'll be fine whether it's whatever date you choose to extend it to.
So I could do it like 10 years from now?
If you wanted to, yeah.
I suggest.
I don't be for month.
I know,
And it's
but
kind of
that's
crazy that if we're going to always just automatically extend it, is this the way we want to do it?
At that point, I'm saying you can extend it. You're setting a deadline, date specific.
The current proposal is November?
September 15th.
No, I'm saying, but you were suggesting, Helen?
I was actually going to say through the end of December, might as well finish out the year, because I don't see us hiring somebody before then. Or even if we had them hired, by the time we go through the process, they won't start till January, right, Chief? So I would say January 15th, 2024.
I would hope that we would hire long before January.
Well, the list comes out in October. By the time you send the letters out, you do the interviews.
I suggest for current purposes, since this has been on the agenda, let's keep it September, but we can keep this in our mind when we meet in July, whether we should have a more generous extension date. But this has been what's on the agenda, so let's take this vote. Sorry.
Well, we know that we're not going to have someone by September, so we might. I don't understand why we just
because
don't.
the motion on the floor that we're voting on right now is.
Okay, all right, then can I make a motion to amend the motion?
You can.
Scott, right?
Yes, you can make a motion.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to amend the motion to say through January 15, 2024.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Discussion. Okay.
On the amendment.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions?
I'm going to abstain. I don't see the value in it, but I don't feel opposed to the idea.
Okay. Motion carries.
All right, so you've now amended it. So now you have a motion on the floor for a temporary waiver of the 60-hour biweekly limit for part-time police officers not to exceed 35 hours in 1 week through January 15th, 2024.
And now we have to vote on that.
Correct.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Opposed? Aye. Abstentions? Okay. Motion carries. Item 8H. Call for motion to approve increasing the part-time police officer hourly rate to $29 per hour and increasing the part-time officer hourly rate for festive holidays and Independence Day to $43.50 per hour, subject to memorandum of understanding.
So moved. Second.
Discussion?
So why do we have it at $29? I know, but I ended up calling some municipalities, and a lot of the municipalities are much lower. Langhorne Borough is at 27, Tullytown is at 27, Bristol Borough is at 27, Yardley Borough is at 22, Upper Makefield Township's at 26, Pendle Borough is at 25, Newtown Borough is at 21, New Hope
Have a
Borough.
proposal, Helen? Those numbers?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I have the floor, Bob. So I also took a look at what so the proposal is for $29, but we have 2 officers that we just hired who are in their first year, and they're going to be making less than $29. So we have part-time officers who are making more than officers we put on staff. So I'm just confused why we need to be at the $29 mark when all other municipalities I just read to you that are local to us are much lower, and our full-time starting salaries are much lower than the $29.
When it's time for discussion, may I say something?
Go ahead.
Those small communities that you mentioned do not have 3 bridges that are coming over from Trenton. They don't have the same challenges that we have. And we, as far as putting part-timers higher than full-time, I get that might seem like an unbalance, but the full-timers are getting benefits, multiple benefits that the part-timers do not get.
Also, if I may, we agreed, we discussed at the Finance Committee, the Chief made a pretty pertinent suggestion that this gives them a chance to get ahead of the game, to hire somebody first instead of getting the, I think he used the term the dregs. So we're trying to give you a chance to get ahead of the game.
Any other comments or questions?
I do have one question. I apologize.
It seems that the over the last couple of years, we've had a difficult time hiring and retaining part-time officers. If we go with 29, then we can brag that we are the highest paid department for part-timers. And if we really get that out there, then maybe that will make our part-time hiring woes go away.
Jason, you?
Yes. My only question or concern is, will this pay differential put us in noncompliance with union rules, or is it fine as is because it's part-time?
If I may, that's why it says subject to memorandum of understanding. There'll be a discussion with the full-time union as to if they're also in agreement and don't have an issue with this.
Okay. Then, no, I'm fine. Then that's my only question.
Because as Helen had mentioned, my only concern was that we do have full-time officers that are making $7 less, and I wanted to make sure with the full-timers as if, there was any issues. But that's a good question. Thank you.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
Just one last comment. Some people maybe think $29 is too much, or I can't imagine that we should even expect an officer to go out there and work for less than that. The dangers that they are subject to, the unknowns that they're subject to, I'm very happy to pay them the $29.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 8I, call for motion to approve resolution authorizing the submission of a community development block grant application for Morrisville Borough Manor Park and playground improvements, authorizing the borough manager of the borough, as opposed to any other borough manager of something else, the borough manager of the borough to sign such applications and to submit such applications and information as may be required, and to take all such other acts as may be necessary to complete the application for CDBG funding.
So moved.
Discussion.
I do have a question.
Go ahead.
This has, at last month's meeting, motion 8N, I believe we had a resolution regarding this. So did the resolution came before the actual application?
No, what happened was we knew we were going to apply for this, so I placed it on the agenda. But then once we moved forward with the county, they provided us with a resolution. So that's why it's on there again, because we now had to adopt the resolution, and the verbiage that we utilize is actually on the heading of the resolution.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Wait, have we voted on that one yet?
Yeah. No. Yes. Well, we had a question. Helen was a motion and Andrew was a second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Item 8J, call for motion for Eagle Scout project consisting of one pickleball court installation to be moved from Manor Park to Williamson Park at the location of the current hockey area next to the tennis courts.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yes.
Go ahead.
I'm voting yes because I'm happy to know that we're going to get a pickleball court. I don't want this to be, I want this to be a success, but I'm voicing my concern that court does not have a fence, and most of the pickleball players don't want to play without a fence. But I didn't say I was going to vote against it. I'm just letting the public know.
And if I may, Council President, I would actually like the ability to be able to have this pickleball court at either park, Manor Park or Williamson Park, because if there's more review that is done and Williamson Park isn't the right place, we would have to revert back to Manor Park. At this point, I'm concerned. I know Nancy brought that issue up. I did talk to John later. We really felt that, and I also spoke with Catherine, we really felt that Williamson Park, this area would be the best scenario at this time. I'm concerned because we do need to speak with the scout, because I did send an email to, I'm sorry, I think it was Tracy, So I did do that, but I haven't had any discussion with the scout at this time. So if there's any possibility to allow me to follow through with the scout and wherever this would work the best, to be able to choose that, if council could.
I guess I thought they're already telling us that Manor Park is no good or that doesn't work.
Well, what
Why do
I,
we want to keep that as an option?
because if something arises that the scout is not able to transfer his project to Williamson Park, then the scout can't do his project.
But he can't do it at Manor Park. We've already said that Manor Park doesn't work because of floods or whatever other reason.
When I went out after the rain, there was a huge puddle there, and my concern was, I took pictures, and I know I'd gotten pictures from council persons. My concern was that this may not work. I don't know if there's something else, if we have other options to do something with that flooding. I don't know that.
Well, we've already approved Manor Park. That
Yes,
was
you
the
did.
last one.
You did.
So now you want to basically just add Williamson Park as a alternative location.
I would like to do that, yes, please.
So do we have to change that motion then as an alternative rather than moving?
Can we have it as the primary location? And if he can't do it there, then switch it back to Manor Park?
Can we do that?
You can. I just think we're going to be dealing with a lot of, because of the noise issues in Manor Park. I think I've already heard from a lot of neighbors.
I know.
And so, I mean, I think a fence we could maybe eventually do if it's well done and proper. But we're going to be dealing with neighbor complaints for a long time.
No, I know, and I had spoken with Mr. Lepuski prior to this evening's meeting. I understand that, but I'm just trying to help here with the Eagle Scout project, because if this were to fail for him, his entire project will fail. So I don't know.
By approving it this evening as it's written, it still gives him the option, since you haven't spoken to him, and we can just find out more. And then I think once the location's been determined, then maybe you can clue us in as to what direction he's taking. But if you go back to Manor.
But this would require him, though, right, to move it. It doesn't
Well,
give
if
him
we
a
can-
choice. This is basically the way it's written now. You'd be required to move it, and that's what we're telling him to do.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Do we need to alter this? But
I'm still saying maybe that we do want to. That's exactly what we want to do. That maybe we don't want to offer the optionality at this point.
Well,
that Manor Park is not is a no go. If he's got to find somewhere else, he might find somewhere else. But Manor Park doesn't. I don't want to beat this to death, because we all want this kid to finish his project wherever.
And that's my point, wherever, and if, I know that he quickly was able to get funds of up to $3,000 very quickly. So I don't know if he would be able to fix or rectify any portion of that blacktop to help with the puddling or the ponding. I don't know that. My knee-jerk reaction was to send an email to Tracy and put this on the agenda and say, oh, let's just move it for him. Well, now, with thinking about this and being concerned, will the Scoutmaster allow it at this point, the change? There's so many factors here. And I don't know if he would be able to fundraise the funds to help with the ponding. I don't know that. All I'm asking council to do is allow me to work with him and Public Works to the best viable option, whether it is Williamson Park or if it's Manor Park, and to proceed.
Then why don't we just take this off why don't we just take it off the agenda, and you will work with him. I mean, this could be considered similar to what we approved last month, that if there's something like this that comes up, that we can give you that power to do that. Back to Manor Park for a moment, when he gave us the printout, his proposal, it actually still had the water in the middle, and he said he was just leaving it there. That's just not viable.
Well,
we all know that.
We also didn't have the proposal when we had the vote. So to say that the Eagle Scouts are going to tell us where the pickleball court should go is not proper. My suggestion is to move it to Williamson Park.
Again, all I was asking for was if Williamson Park doesn't work, do I have options? Because we don't have another council meeting until July. So I would, and I know that this Eagle Scout will be wanting to work on this by July.
Well, are you asking
certainly.
for other options besides Manor Park? That's what I'm getting.
I'm asking,
It sounds like a lousy option, so it's not really an option. So what else, what other options are you talking about? Do we need to be specific here? Can we just authorize, can we just authorize the borough manager to approve final location of this project?
It's what I
I'm willing to
suggested.
do that. Are the other members of council willing to deputize
I'm fine
the
with
borough
that.
manager to do this?
I'm fine with
thank
that.
you.
Is that okay, borough solicitor?
Yeah, you'd be able to do that. You just have to amend your motion so it would say that. But yes, you could authorize Ms. Danko to, work with the Eagle Scout to find the final location for the pickleball court.
Okay, well, then that's what then I propose amending the resolution to call for a motion for, to authorize the borough manager to work with the Eagle Scout, or I don't know how to say it, but
I would say you'd be asking for a motion.
to authorize the borough manager to designate the final location of the Eagle Scout project consisting of one pickleball court. How's that?
Seconded.
It sounds good to me.
Okay. Any further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, wait.
No.
Okay, one no. So that's,
I'll change it to 2 noes.
let's vote. Roll call, Virginia,
At Williamson Park.
please.
Ms. Engelhardt?
No.
Mr. Lubin?
Yes.
Mr. Manette?
Yes.
Mrs. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Alamo?
No.
Mr. Robinson?
Yes.
Mrs. Sherlock?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Vote is 6-2.
Thank you.
Okay, and you've now amended it, so we do have to vote again.
Oh, now we have to,
Yes.
Sorry.
weasel. Okay. Scott, would you read us the resolution?
So we have the motion it's a motion to authorize the borough manager to select a final location for one pickleball court for the Eagle Scout project.
Well, no, it's the location for the Eagle Scout project consisting of one pickleball court. Well, okay, you do it your way. If yours way works, it's okay.
It's just a pickleball.
All in favor?
Aye.
No, I'm sorry. Roll call. Sorry, Virginia.
No problem. Ms. Engelhardt?
No.
Mr. Lubin?
Still yes.
Mr. Manette?
Yes.
Mrs. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Alamo?
No.
Mr. Robinson?
No.
Mrs. Sherlock?
Yes.
Mr. Paul?
Yes.
Okay, and the vote is 5-3.
Mr. Paul?
Yes, Ms. Sherlock.
I would like to say I'm pretty confident that our borough manager will help make the right decision, and I don't see Manor Park in the cards.
I agree, both counts.
I hope that's true, too.
That's the goal.
And
you.
finally, item 8K. Call for motion to approve Police Directive 204, use of force.
So moved. Second.
Discussion.
I don't even know who that was.
Who was
We're
the
on the
first?
same page.
Carletha.
Carletha was the first. Carletha was the motion.
Thank you.
You have a second?
Helen?
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Other business?
Unfortunately, I have something here,
Go for
but
it.
it'll be quick.
Mr. Lubin.
I never thought I'd see a day when I agree with Dave Ravella but today's that day. I think council needs to perhaps discuss but vote on a vote of no confidence regarding our Mayor Bud Anderson for his alleged hit and run or his hit and run indictment.
I think, well, I'll leave it to the solicitor, but his trial is on July 18th, and we have to wait to see the outcome, right, Scott? Or can we do that before the trial?
I mean, a vote of no confidence, if you were to do that, is not really a legal thing. You would be entirely within your purview to proceed however you were to decide.
But it would have no legal effect.
Correct. There's nothing.
No, but it's not meant to. It's just to show that there's a lot of people disgusted with what's happened, and there's a lack of apology, more than lack of apology. So, I threw it out there. Anybody want to second it?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Many times, Mr. Paul, you'd say, discuss. Or are we just going to sit here? Okay.
By all means, go ahead.
I wouldn't have done this had Mr. Mayor not ended his alleged apology with the dig at Ravella. Yeah, if you're going to apologize, apologize. Don't just sit there and throw a snarky comment at the end that really kind of negates the entire apology. That's how I took it.
I agree with you. I had that same feeling.
Well, I'll just say as president of this council, this has been a very difficult situation. Awkward for all of us at best and downright embarrassing, and it's very difficult for us to walk through. The fact that tonight is the first time the mayor acknowledged that something happened, I thought was important, and I would have appreciated that earlier, but that's better late than never. But in recognition of the fact that there is an ongoing criminal proceeding being conducted by the Bucks County District Attorney's Office, I'm not comfortable taking any action, even if it's a ceremonial no vote. But that's not to say that I don't share Mr. Lubin's concerns and disappointment in the way things have been conducted to this point. And that's not just the situation of whatever underlies the criminal proceeding, but it's really the subsequent actions and reactions, and the fact that, you know, we all know that we're dealing with this issue, and to pretend that it didn't happen and walk around for the last 2 months as if everything was normal is absurd. And I'm glad that, to that extent, I'm glad that former Mayor Ravella spoke up. And I also agree with Mr. Lubin's characterization that the apology was kind of undercut. He undercut his own apology. But you know, I can't control other people. We all do what we think is right. I'm not here to judge anybody. I'm not here to judge the mayor or the other council members or anybody else in this room. But I do share the comment made by one of the citizens that I think that public officials, like all of us, should be held to a higher standard. And I think we have to hold ourselves to that standard. It's unfortunate when we don't meet those standards. So I'm not trying to preach. I'm not trying to patronize. I'm not trying to besmirch anybody's character, but this has been a very difficult situation, and I think it's important that we at least try to talk about it to the extent that it's appropriate and prudent and not sensationalized and not personally derogatory to anybody. Anyway, I think it's an important issue that Mr. Lubin's raised. And whether it's a vote of no confidence or not, I think it's important that we at least express our concern and at least let the public know that we're cognizant of what's going on, that we haven't been ignoring it, but we're working within boundaries of that are very fine distinctions of what's appropriate, what's prudent, what's legal, and what's ethical. And we'll continue to walk that tightrope over the next few months. But I welcome, any comments from the citizens. Anyway, thank you. And any other discussion on Mr. Lubin's proposal?
I agree with you, Bob. I'm not ready to, I don't think we need to go any further. I mean, we recognize that what he's done is not above board, but there is a legal process going on, and I think we need to let that legal process play out before we do anything as far as doing a no vote of confidence. If that legal action proves to be something that raises up to another standard, then that's when we need to move forward. But right now, since there's a legal process going on, we need to let that legal process move forward. We understand the community has their feelings. They feel some kind of way about it. And I do agree the apology was definitely undercut by the snarky comment at the end. If you're going to apologize, you're going to apologize. But right now, a no vote of confidence is not, I don't think it's warranted, not at this point in time.
Any other comments? Okay, let's vote. I think we should do this by roll call. Unfortunately, right? Do we have an action to vote on?
No, we don't have an action.
Oh, I thought you were actually proposing.
I thought I did too.
Vote, didn't you?
I thought I did too. Mr. Holbrook, perhaps you could rephrase my verbal meanderings.
Was there a second?
I believe Helen had seconded.
Helen did.
Motion of Andrew, second Helen.
Yeah.
Right.
I lost my.
Yeah, so we're discussing the motion, so let's vote on the motion.
Sorry to wake you, Scott.
Should we?
Unless you want to withdraw the motion.
Can we withdraw the motion until next month?
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay.
Motion's
But
withdrawn.
I wanted noted that the motion was at least made and then withdrawn.
Yeah,
I want people in town to know that we actually have taken consideration what's gone on.
It's fair enough.
We can make sure that it's in the minutes for you. You're welcome.
Yeah, the trial is in July, and so then once that is settled, I agree with Carletha, then we can make a public comment as a body.
All right, motion is withdrawn then.
Okay, any other business? Go ahead, Ms. Sherlock.
The next scheduled ordinance, I don't know, meeting, I don't know if we're having one or not, is July 12th. There are just a couple ordinances I'd really like to start moving on if we could. And that's one that we've talked about for probably almost 20 years, maybe, rental property ordinance. I really think it's important. We have 49% rentals in this borough. And I understand our code officer is, doing their best in certain things that they do, but the rental properties are not completely so I
Do you have examples that you could provide to the committee?
Yes, absolutely.
Great.
And then also a change of the civil service ordinance, but that's something we can show you, the sample copy, but I don't know that we're prepared to go that route just yet. And then there's also an ordinance, it's called the degraded street ordinance, and that's for when the utilities comes in and tears up your street, whether it could be water, or it could be the gas companies, which they're doing a bang-up job of that these days. But that's another ordinance I'd like to take a look at. Also, there's an environmental ordinance I proposed this a few years ago, but there was absolutely no appetite for it, and no one wanted to do it. And I also have a sample copy of an EEOC ordinance, which maybe we should revisit.
If I may comment, Nancy, I believe that all of the ordinances that you just noted are important, but at this time, we do not have the borough staff or the wherewithal to follow through on most of this at this time. The rental property ordinance would be huge. I've done that in other municipalities. I think it would be a very nice idea here, but we don't have the wherewithal right now to follow through on some of these items. The staff that we have are understaffed. Until we get ourselves staffed fully, which we're working on, and with all the things that we have on our plates, we need to get through some of those items first, and then we can move on to some of these things. And I have to say that because at one point, we can only do so much, and we're at office level and staff, that's really where we're at. Again, all great ordinances, all good ideas. I think we need to focus on the things that we have started so far. We're still working on the issues that we have in the office with payroll and so forth. We need to finish those items. And I'm asking for patience and understanding because of that. And let's not please start anything new. Let's follow through with what we're working on currently so we can get those items completed in full. And then we can bring some of these other things up. And I greatly appreciate if everyone understands what I'm saying. I do believe that we have degradation ordinance. John, can you hear me? Do we have that? I thought we had that regarding if PICO opens up an area, there is a certain amount. I think that they.
Well, there's something written, but I think it's more of a policy versus an ordinance, but I could be wrong because it's pretty old. When we open the street, we have something with regard opening the streets.
Yes, they open the streets, they're required to fill it to PennDOT specs. That's kind of what it is. I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
Well, but PennDOT, I don't know that they're actually on our side streets.
No,
Like,
they still have to do the roads and PennDOT specs.
sure. Well, maybe I can get a copy of that again.
Had that,
We just did ours.
probably that's when Scott Mitchell was here when he first came in. So
Sure.
Yeah, they just tore up our street and they just repaved everything back. Whatever they tore up, they put it all
back. And that's
great.
PICO. I believe that's PICO on your street. And so we do have that in place. It may not have been utilized in the past. And I know that for a fact that John and I have been talking about that. We've been making sure that where PICO is working. In fact, we just had a conversation last week that when PICO is doing some road openings and so forth, that maybe in the future, once we do have some money in our coffers, that we could possibly be able to gear up with them on some of these areas. But if we're utilizing liquid fuels, we have to go through the liquid fuels process. So we don't know that we'd be able to do it with that. But we do have, John and I do have some ideas moving forward. But again, I think all of these are great ideas. I'm asking, again, council to please just be patient and let us get through some of the things that we've been working on.
John, can you talk with PICO because they are down on Coleman Avenue and they've torn that street up pretty bad on the left-hand side if you're going north Philadelphia. Could you work and try to get them to do that whole street?
they won't do the whole street. They'll only do half.
They'll only do what they
half. They're only required to do half.
They require to do half.
Just the half?
Just
Well,
half the road.
can they do the half then? That's better than nothing.
They will do. No, they will.
Okay.
Do. That is part of what when they open up so much square footage, they have to do half the road.
Okay.
That's the rule that we have. It's one of the rules that's in place.
Okay.
And that's what talking with Judith said. Eventually, if we get caught up with the road program, we're kind of behind now. We work with PICO on Lafayette when they did the work on Hillcrest and Lafayette, and they gave us monies to do that, to help us. So we can do that in the future with them, but we're behind right now. So
And there's a lot of coordination that goes with that because we need to make sure that whatever is under the road, maybe water lines, gas lines, anything that's under the road, we need to make sure that that's updated first and that we're actually working with these companies in advance to know that we would have to go through our processes, that we could spend the monies that we have on that. So it would be a process, but it's something that we talked about, and I think it would be a good program.
that's what we did with the MMA. The MMA and the gas company with Hillcrest. They did the replacement of mains and stuff up there till 2 years ago. So that's why we did. That's why we paved those areas. So that's what we'd like to do. You hate to have go that and the water company comes in because they've got a 4-inch water main in there that's 70 years old or 80 years old. They're tearing the road up again. So we don't want that. So we have to coordinate with them. So we'll do that. We'll do that moving forward.
Thank you, John. I don't know if you have any other
Mr.
questions.
Paul, one last thing.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a reminder, this is what I was going to ask the chief to come back and remind the public to please lock your cars every night. If you read the blotter, people are leaving their keys in their cars, the fobs, and they're also not locking up.
And Mr. Paul, one more thing. There's no finance committee meeting tomorrow night.
Yay!
My thoughts exactly.
Motion to adjourn.
Wait a second. Before anyone adjourns, I want everyone to know that the zoning hearing board still has an opening for an alternate for the remainder of a term that expires on January 8th, 2024.
Thank you, Council President.
And with that,
Motion to adjourn.
Second?
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait, go ahead, Scott. Yeah.
Before the one real quick thing, I just want to reiterate on with the roads on the 200 block of Osborne. The residents call it the half a cup of coffee road because that's all the coffee that's left in their cup if they drive down it. It's just really dead shape. Hopefully we can get that added to the list. I don't know how it wasn't on the list in the first place. And the whole street the whole street could be paved, but the 200 block really needs to be addressed.
Completely agree, Scott.
Next one, I may have crossed the line a little bit with Judith when I whipped out that picture of 327 Prospect, but thank you, Judith. I'll apologize and thank you in the same sentence for getting that mess taken care of temporarily. I went by and it's a noticeable improvement. And one more thing, I can't help but agree with former Mayor Ravello tonight and his thoughts and words on the EIP. And I don't know, I'm hoping this council maybe we can look into something of maybe rolling back a 0.5% of it. I know it's already set in stone and whatnot, but there are a lot of people out there that are still unhappy with it. That people that never pay. I know the argument is the money's coming back to the borough, but there's a lot of people out there that didn't pay it when they worked. I'm one of them. I never paid the EIP in my life. So this is something to look into. That's all that I have.
Okay, thanks, Scott.
Scott, I just wanted to, we were talking about Osborne. Is that the road?
Yes.
The
road that's the disaster is Osborne, the 200 block of Osborne.
It is.
It's not even, some roads are bad and you can justify saying, well, it's going to slow people down. If you live on the 200 block of Osborne and have a back surgery done, I have a helicopter land in front of you. I wouldn't even drive on the street. It is a bad roller coaster.
Scott, what I'm trying to do is get a conversation with John, Scott. I know you can't see him, but I'm trying to get a conversation with John because
No, she's not. She's just saying that.
I believe that is the road where there were many water issues. So
water. That's one of the roads that they talked about replacing that water line. It's a 4-inch main that they want to replace that, and they'll work with us to do that. So we have to coordinate with that.
So that will be something that what we would like to do is coordinate with the municipal authority to find out how we can get something to take place there. And I just wanted, John, you to hear that because as you saw tonight, I don't hold the road names well. Yes, so I wanted to make sure that you came to the podium and you were aware of this and that we go to the municipal authority. Thank you very much.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we're all in favor. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We're finally adjourned.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night, everyone.